because there and it.
Good morning. The committee will come to order. I want to thank everyone for joining us this morning, and I want to especially thank the witnesses for being here today. Whether we are working for small or large businesses, a not-for-profit or a sole proprietor, every American deserves a retirement and security peace of mind. Unfortunately, far too many Americans are facing a crisis: the inability to fully retire with dignity in a life after hard work. Many of today's workers are nowhere close to having enough saved always to ensure a quality, secure retirement. In fact, half of all American families near retirement have $12,000 or less in retirement savings, and 1/3 have been less than $5,000 savings for retirement. What's more, among non-retirees in their 50s and 60s, 1 in 8 lack any retirement savings, and less than half of them think their retirement savings are on track, according to the latest report on economic well-being of U.S. households. Even among young workers, saving for retirement remains a struggle or even an afterthought. The high cost of an education has made retirement readiness more difficult, for some impossible. Given that there are nearly 30 million small businesses support 56 million jobs, it is imperative that small firms have the tools and the resources to set up retirement plans so business owners and their workers have financial security. However, when over half of all our small businesses do not have a retirement plan set up, we know that more work needs to be done. In addition to serving as the vice chair of the committee, and I just said to the ranking member, no, I'm not Chairwoman Vasquez, but she's the chair, I serve on the Ways and Means Committee. Last month, we had a hearing on improving retirement security, where I had the opportunity to talk about the viability of this issue with small businesses being able to provide retirement benefits to their employees, and also explore some of the obstacles facing small businesses in providing this benefit. In my home state of Pennsylvania, we have nearly 1 million small businesses employing 2.5 million workers, accounting for 46.7% of the workforce for the entire state. Small firms account for 99.6% of my state employers. Needless to say, small businesses are the drivers in our community. In order for these small businesses to remain competitive and to continue to be the economic and innovative drivers they are, they must be able to offer substantial benefits to their employees. One of the barriers for the small firm is the cost of setting up a plan, along with the cost of administrating and maintaining the plan. Small firms face the ongoing fiduciary duties, such as reviewing investment, running discriminating tests, all while trying to run a business. Needless to say, the process can become burdensome and costly rather quickly. And if the small employer faces too many challenges, they ultimately feel the burden of providing a retirement plan, unfortunately, outweighs the benefits. Understanding these challenges can help us better address the solutions to low participation rates among small entities. One approach may be to offer tax incentive to small business owners who choose to sponsor a plan. Another way is to increase plan participation to allow small firms to band together to offer retirement plans, which could lead to administrative savings and reduce the fiduciary responsibility, making it easier for employees to automatically enroll in retirement plans could encourage in small businesses to save their retirement. These and other issues merit further discussion, but what is absolutely clear is we must act to soon help small businesses, their employees, and entrepreneurs plan for their future. For this reason, we need to make sure that retirement plans are attractive for small businesses, as their retirement saving is an intricate part of our nation's future. And that is why we are here today. The hearing will examine the options for small employers the benefits and barriers they face in offering plans and options for expanding coverage. It will allow the opportunity to discuss the current vehicles that many small businesses use to provide retirement benefits in ways which they can improve upon. With the proper tools, America's small firms can help to create a financial security for themselves and their workers. With that, I thank each of the witnesses for joining us today, and I look forward to their testimony. I'd like to yield to the ranking member, Mr. Shavit, for his opening statement.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and I know you'll do everything within your power to live up to the high standards set by Chairwoman Velasquez, and I'm sure you're up to the task. Planning for the future, preparing for what's ahead, and creating a roadmap for success are cornerstones for virtually every small business in America. These phrases guide day-to-day decision-making and help determine long-term strategy. They also mark the fundamental basics of retirement security for both small business owners and small business employees across the nation. Unfortunately, saving for retirement is not only a challenge for most individual Americans, it's also proven to be problematic for many small businesses. As a result, some of the nation's smallest firms and their employees are sitting on the sidelines when it comes to saving for the future. According to the U.S. Department of Labor, 66% of all businesses provide retirement benefit options to their employees. Unfortunately, that means that nearly one-third of all private sector workers are not given an opportunity to participate. Acknowledging the challenges that many Americans have in saving for the future, President Trump signed an executive order last August to help small businesses reduce costs and burdens associated with retirement benefits. A key part of that executive order was the expansion of multiple employer plans that provide individual employers the opportunity to band together to offer options to their employees. As we await final guidance on the expansion of this program, I look forward to today's hearing exploring some of the challenges facing small businesses as they navigate the retirement landscape. Additionally, I'm looking forward to hearing from our witnesses about what Congress can and should do in order to jumpstart savings. As a larger and larger segment of our population grows into retirement age, and we're living longer, we must make it a priority to provide small businesses with a menu of retirement options for their employees. And again, I want to thank you, Mr. Chair, and I yield back.
I'd like to thank the ranking member. I'd like to explain to you the rules. I'd like to take a minute to explain. Each witness gets 5 minutes to testify, and members get 5 minutes to questioning. There is a lighting system to assist you. The green light comes on when you begin. The yellow light means there's a 1 minute remaining. The red light comes on when you're out of time, and we ask that you stay within the time frame to the best of your ability. To a very good friend of mine, I'd like to yield to Mr. Espiat from New York to introduce our first witness.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I want to take this great opportunity to introduce our first witness, Ms. Marella A. Joseph. Ms. Joseph is a distinguished and successful small business owner from my congressional district in Harlem. Ms. Joseph is a co-founder and partner of Joseph & Turner Consulting Actuaries, LLC. She is an enrolled actuary certified by the Joint Board of the Enrollment of Actuaries. Ms. Joseph has for over 25 years, she has over 25 years of experience in the field of retirement planning consulting. She specializes in defined benefit plans and defined contribution plans, and she provides consulting services in the area of plan design, funding, and administration for a variety of businesses, as well as self-employed individuals. In fact, Ms. Joseph, your office is just 6 blocks away from my Harlem office, and I wanted to take this opportunity to welcome you to the panel.
Thank you. I'm going to introduce the rest of the panelists. Our second witness is Mr. Paul Davidson. Mr. Davidson is the Director of Project Management at Paycheck Incorporated, where he started the retirement service for division with nothing more than the brief that savings for retirement should an employee benefit access to all. Thank you, Mr. Davidson, for overseeing the retirement plan serving businesses at Paycheck, administrating more than 77,401 plans with a concentration on small plan market. Paycheck simplifies and minimizes the administrative burden for the employer, allowing businesses to offer employees state-of-the-art retirement. Welcome, Mr. Davidson. Our next witness is Mr. Greg Gagon, right? Did I get that correct? Gogani, apologize. Mr. Gogani oversees all accounting, finance, HR, recruiting, contracting functions in support of Citizen, growth and strategic plans. In his role, he provides strategic counseling, immigrated planning, due diligence, leadership, and support of business acquisition. During his tenure, Mr. Gagoni has overseen major recapitalization, refinancing effort, and was instrumental in developing the company financial management. I'd like to welcome you, Mr. Gagoni. I'd like to yield to our ranking member, Mr. Shavit, to introduce our final witness.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to introduce Keith Hall. Mr. Hall is the President and Chief Executive Officer of NACE, the National Association for the Self-Employed. With 50,000 members, NACE is one of the nation's leading authorities and resources for the country's self-employed and micro businesses. With a membership consisting of both service-oriented and information-oriented businesses, NACE offers resources to help the nation's smallest firms navigate the legal, tax, health, and retirement challenges that they face. Prior to serving as NACE's top executive, Mr. Hall was the organization's Chief Operating Officer, Chief Financial Officer, and its National Tax Advisor. And we welcome you here this morning, Mr. Hall. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Turner, we'd like to recognize you for 5 minutes.
Good morning. I would like to thank Chairwoman Velasquez, Ranking Member Shabbat, for the opportunity to speak with you about how to achieve a secure retirement for small business owners and their employees. My name is Marella Joseph, and I'm an enrolled actuary. My husband, Eugene Joseph, and I are co-founders of Joseph & Turner Consulting Actuaries, LLC, located in Central Harlem, New York City. Joseph & Turner Consulting Actuaries, LLC provides actuarial, consulting, and plan administrative services for retirement plans covering thousands of participants. And we specialize in small business plans. The average size of our plans are roughly anywhere between 10 to 20 plan participants. I'm a member of the American Retirement Association and served on the board of directors for 12 years. The American Retirement Association represents more than 25,000 retirement plan professionals nationwide, from actuaries like myself to consultants, administrators, financial advisors, attorneys, and accountants. Our members provide consulting and administrative services to millions of Americans, savers, and retirement plan sponsors. Our mission is to help American workers strengthen their retirement security through workplace retirement plans, particularly for small businesses. For most Americans, particularly those with moderate income, the key to a successful retirement is having access to workplace retirement plan. These plans particularly benefit the middle class. Studies have shown that 66% of active participants in 401k and other profit-sharing plans have an adjusted gross income of less than $100,000. And of these, more than half have income of $50,000 or less. Most importantly, workers earning between $30,000 and $50,000 are 12 times more likely to save for retirement through payroll deduction in a workplace retirement plan than on their own in an IRA. Despite the success of the private retirement system, the American Retirement Association recognizes that far too many American workers still lack access to a workplace retirement plan, particularly those working for small businesses. Fortunately, there are easy and impactful ways that Congress can take action to increase the availability of workplace retirement plans. We strongly urge Congress to enact the Retirement Enhancement and Savings Act, or RESA, as quickly as possible, along with additional legislation to drive greater access to workplace retirement plans, as well as enhance the overall experience for those currently participating in the system. RESA includes several provisions that, when taken together, will make a considerable easier for small businesses to adopt and maintain a workplace retirement plan. It has been far too long since comprehensive retirement legislation has been enacted. Since the last such legislation, the Pension Protection Act of 2006, the retirement marketplace has continued to innovate by offering new and lower cost retirement-related products, financial wellness tool, and improve decumulation strategies. However, public policies that could promote more innovation in the retirement arena have not kept pace. The passage of RESA would certainly be a step in the right direction. In addition to RESA, we also support Chairman Richard Neal's legislation to further encourage businesses to offer their employees access to a payroll deduction savings. And I see that my time is running out, so I'll cut this real short by saying that Chairman Neal's auto retirement program and his auto IRA program are two programs that will be very, very helpful for small businesses to start retirement plans, kind of like training wheels, where employer contributions are not required under those programs. I finish by saying, again, thank you for having me here to discuss this topic, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
When I go back to the meeting, I'll make sure I mention that to Mr. Neal. Mr. Davidson.
Congressman Evans, Ranking Member Shabbat, and members of our committee, good morning and thank you for the opportunity to testify today. My name is Paul Davidson. I'm the Director of Product Management at Paychex. I've worked in the small business retirement space for over 30 years and believe retirement security is a critical issue facing our country. I applaud the work that Congress and this committee are doing to try to address the challenges many small business owners and employees face when it comes to saving for retirement. Paychex is a leading provider of payroll, benefits, human resources, and insurance services. Paychex serves over 650,000 small business payroll clients and pays 1 out of every 12 American private sector employees. With an average client size below 20, most of our customers are true mom-and-pop businesses. Paychex now administers more than 80,000 401k plans for small businesses. Last year alone, we worked with over 14,000 small businesses to start new retirement plans. While we are very proud of that accomplishment, to this day, over 70% of Paychex small business payroll clients do not offer a retirement plan benefit. As the committee well knows, while the retirement crisis impacts all types of American employers and employees, it has a disproportionate impact among small businesses. According to a Paychex small business survey, more than half of small business owners don't have a formal retirement savings program at their business. At the same time, 69% of small business owners in our research declared zero to little financial preparedness for their retirement. Our current policies put heavy responsibility on the small employer if they offer a qualified plan. They can either pay an extra 3% of payroll into the plan to get assurance of a safe harbor, or they can leave themselves vulnerable to compliance testing. If they become out of compliance, which is easy to do with a small number of employees, they often face large, unexpected, and unbudgeted costs. We believe there are a variety of policy changes that can be made that would significantly increase the number of small businesses able to offer retirement plans to their employees. Congress has begun taking action, and I believe many of the proposals are steps in the right direction. For example, the Retirement Enhancement and Savings Act, RESA, makes a variety of changes that would be helpful to small businesses, such as an increased tax credit. Senators Portman and Cardin also have been working on bipartisan legislation, and the Ways and Means Chairman Richard Neal has been a leader in this space. And of course, we commend this committee for making a retirement security a priority and for ensuring that small businesses are a critical part of the conversation and the solution. In addition, much of the good work that's going on in Congress in this space, we believe there are additional steps that could have an even more dramatic impact. When we discuss retirement plans with our small business customers, the obstacles to offering plans really come down to three areas: complacency, complexity, and cost. It's important that we don't segregate American workers by the size of the company they work for. Our existing policies have achieved maximum penetration in the large and mid-sized market. Now we need to focus on lowering the burden to the employer so all workers, even those at small companies, can save for a dignified retirement. I believe you could dramatically increase the number of small businesses offering retirement plans if you address each of these head-on. Here are the few things I think would recommend. Provide a safe harbor that does not require a match. Why do we make the employer pay to have his employees save? Allow small businesses to outsource some of the fiduciary responsibility to professionals. Don't make these small business owners become legal experts. Make all employees immediately eligible for the plans. Require automatic enrollment in the plan. This would ensure wide participation and alleviate the need for our complex compliance testing today. These changes would eliminate the need for top-heavy compliance and coverage testing, when the business would know their cost at each payroll and would not be surprised by a cost driven from a compliance failure. As a result of these changes, small businesses would be able to offer a plan that was simpler, less expensive, and more accessible to employees. In closing, while most small businesses that we meet with want to offer an employee benefit retirement plan, however, once they consider the cost of and the regulatory burdens, many choose not to move forward. Making it simpler, easier, and less expensive for small businesses to offer retirement savings programs for employees is sound public policy and the right thing to do for American small businesses and workers, allowing all Americans to save for a dignified retirement. I thank the committee for their leadership on small business retirement issues and for the opportunity to participate in the discussion today.
Thank you, Mr. Davidson. Mr. Gagon, you have 5 minutes.
Vice Chairman Evans, Ranking Member Shabbat, and members of the House Small Business Committee, thank you for the opportunity to speak today. Small businesses employ approximately 47.5% of all private sector employees and face a myriad of challenges when it comes to offering retirement plans. In a study published by the Pew Charitable Trust in January 2017, they found that 71% of small business owners surveyed stated that it was too expensive to set up a retirement plan. 63% stated they did not have the resources to administer a plan, and 50% stated their employees did not want a retirement plan. While it's certainly true that employees of small businesses not offering retirement plans have retirement options available in the form of IRAs, the incentives to IRA pale in comparison to 401k. The current maximum deferral for an IRA is $6,000 a year compared to $19,000 a year for 401k. Furthermore, employees working for small businesses not offering a 401k are missing out on employer contributions, which could be as much as 50% of the funds set aside for retirement. Additionally, participation in an IRA requires a level of self-discipline, requiring employees to manually put funds into an IRA versus automatic payroll deductions. Small businesses not offering retirement plans are at a distinct disadvantage competing for talent. Prospective employees are more likely to take jobs with firms that offer retirement plans. The inability to attract a top-notch workforce stunts growth for small business. In an August 2017 article published by PeopleKeep, the author noted that the number of workers for whom retirement programs is an important benefit is near 70%. My employer, Citizen, was unable to offer any form of retirement plan to its employees for the first 4 years of operation. Only when it was generating roughly $4 million of revenue and had $50 employees could it afford a retirement plan. Small businesses that offer retirement plans face the challenge of increasing employee participation. The most often cited reason for non-participation in a retirement plan is financial. Employees cannot absorb the reduced household cash flow. Many are forced to prioritize the need for health care over retirement savings. This is especially true with lower income levels, and due to the complex rules of 401ks, the non-participation of lower income employees negatively impacts the ability for higher income employees to defer the maximum amounts. Recently, we've noticed a trend amongst the more highly compensated employees in their 20s and 30s. Faced with the large student debt payment, this latter group struggles to make ends meet and cannot service their debt and save for retirement at the same time. They too are missing out on employer contributions that might be available. The IRS, in a 2018 private letter ruling, granted a taxpayer permission to modify its 401k to allow it to make contributions on behalf of an employee, provided the employee was making student loan payments. Under this ruling, employees can receive retirement contributions just as if they were participating in the 401k. This benefit should be provided to all employees of all companies, small and large. Other recommendations mentioned by members of the U.S. Women's Chamber of Commerce in a recent survey to incentivize and assist small businesses to offer retirement benefits include allow multiple small businesses to pool their resources to form and administer shared multi-employer 401k plans managed by experienced 401k plan providers, create greater tax incentives for small business to mitigate the costs of setting up and administer retirement plans, simplify the requirements and administration and legal reporting requirements for plans offered by small businesses, reduce the need for third-party administrators altogether, allow self-directed investment management through vehicles like exchange-traded funds, and promote investment vehicles that do not contain additional layers of fees which reduce the retirement savings benefit. Incentivize employee savings and use of retirement plans by providing an easy, flexible, low-cost, low-fee, small business-sponsored investment plan. Thank you for your support of American small businesses. I encourage you to help incentivize small business owners to provide strong, affordable retirement benefits for small business owners and their employees.
Thank you, Mr. Gagon. Mr. Hall, you have 5 minutes.
Thank you, Vice Chair Evans, Ranking Member Shabbat, members of the committee. I also say thank you for holding this hearing. You can tell by just looking at me already that this is a topic that I'm extremely interested in because I'm getting ready for that as well. I wish this committee had pushed this subject when I was 25 rather than I am at the age that I am now. So thank you so much for doing this. I think this is very important. We represent the 30 million self-employed business owners in this country. We estimate that number to be about 50 million by 2025. To put that in perspective, and I know I'm kind of speaking to the choir here, but to put that number in perspective, the IRS processes about 150 million tax returns a year. So by 2025, 1 out of every 3 of those tax returns will have a small business attached to it. So helping those small businesses manage their own businesses, help grow the economy is very important. And I think the retirement issue is becoming more critical to them. Now, I hate going last because I end up just saying I agree with everyone else. So I have a bunch of the same statistics that other people have talked about, so I don't want to bore you with all those numbers again. But one additional statistic that I would add is that the AARP, I don't even want to tell you why I know about the AARP, but the AARP, they say that in the next 15 years, that about 18%, 1 in 5 retirees will retire with more debt than savings. And that hurts my heart. I wish there had been someone like us, grabbing the back of my neck when I was 25, telling me to start saving. And I think that's what we're here to do. I struggle, to be honest, I struggle a little bit with what we can do because I do believe in my heart at some point people just have to do it. You got to start putting money away for savings. I hate showing a problem without offering some solutions, so I do have 3 things that I know I want to concentrate on, and I would ask you to concentrate on them as well. Number 1 is just awareness. This hearing is a great first step, getting people to be aware that you're not always going to have the job you have. You need to put some money aside. If you believe the Social Security system is going to be available for you when it's your time, some of the younger people in the room, I worry about that as well. So providing these surveys, the AARP survey, the Pew Charitable Trust survey, lots of people are doing surveys. The more information we can put out there, I think the better. I think that's a critical first step, so thank you for this part. The second thing is education, and I think this is where this committee, where you guys, where people like me who work with associations of small business people can come into play, and that's education. Teaching people what they need to put away, how they need to put it away. I think we can bring some pressure or encouragement, whichever word we want to use, on the Small Business Administration, small business development centers, local universities to do seminars, webinars, encourage them to add this topic to their important list of things that people need to know about. Now, awareness and education, those kind of all feel good, but, you know, what does that mean I do on Thursday morning? That's a little more difficult. The third thing is kind of what you've heard from some other members here, and that is concentrate on simplifying the options for small business. I think everyone agrees that one of the big hurdles that small businesses face are the cost of implementing a plan. If we can help them with multiple employer plans, reduce the cost, even you can imagine a nationwide or a statewide plan that small businesses could join that have joint investment options, joint choices, the fees could be lower. If they could then add their 5 employees to someone else's 5 employees, I think there's lots of creative people out there that can put together that concept to make a difference for retirement plan options. I think adding some of the things that Paul had talked about, reducing some of the safe harbor requirements, reducing some of those matching requirements so that that small business owner who just has 5 employees that they want to help save for retirement but really can't afford a profit-sharing match or a 3% match, give them an opportunity to put the plan in place without some of those extra mandates. I think there's lots of options. So I think awareness, education, and then making it simple always, I think that's where we really need to put all of our efforts. And thanks again for allowing me to be here. Thanks for raising this issue to the top, and I appreciate what you guys do. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hall. I know that the chairwoman, if she was here, she would definitely tell you that she gives you kudos and all of you for what you've said. So I know that she felt very strongly about this hearing and the importance of this hearing. Mr. Gagon, last month I met with members of the Pennsylvania Small Business Center. One of the concerns they brought to my attention was that young entrepreneurs are facing great difficulties starting businesses due to student loan debt. As a small business owner, I know you care deeply about your employees and want to make sure they take every step to ensure a quality retirement for them. However, many young workers are faced with the choice of saving for retirement or paying off student debt. Can you, I heard in your testimony, highlight some of the steps Congress can take, and can you expand on these that would address the challenges of younger workers? Mr. Gagon.
Thank you, Vice Chairman. I think that the number one thing that I would like to see Congress do to help the person paying off student debts is just to give them the opportunity to participate in a 401k without them personally having to put money into it. Allow an employer to match the amount that they pay for their student loan as if it was a 401k contribution. Allow the employer to match that amount up to their internal 401k plan into a 401k for that employee. It gives them something, which is better than nothing. Beyond that, I think there are other areas that we can research and get back to you on through the Women's Chamber of Commerce. I don't have any other fresh ideas right now.
Well, I want you to hold your thought because I'm good to you and to Ms. Turner, Joe. I feel that it is our job to do what we can do to help small businesses be competitive. A large part of remaining competitive is being able to attract talent, and the ability to offer sustainable benefits is critical. To both of you, in terms of recruiting and retaining employees, do you find that having a retirement plan is something that employees consider when choosing where to work? Start with you then, Phil.
I think the question to that is an absolute yes. We've seen it in the studies where 70% of the workforce believe retirement is an important benefit. Fortunately, my company does offer a retirement plan, but we see people making choices between how good is your retirement plan versus how good is somebody else I may be talking to. You offer a 3% match, they might offer a 5% match. So retirement benefits are a crucial part of the equation when prospective employees are making decisions to where to work.
Ms. Turner, Joseph?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If I may, I would like to go back to the question that you asked about student loans and those who are having problems paying off student loans as well as saving on the retirement program. I think one thing that could be added, I know there's legislations out there pertaining to having plan participants get a matching contribution on their student loan, and I think that's a wonderful move. But what you can do also to motivate employers to want to participate in this program is allow the student loans that are being matched to be considered in the testing for the non-discrimination rules for the elective deferrals, and also have the matching contributions being tested in the test for match contributions. That will be a big incentive for employers to want to participate in this program because they're providing benefits for their plan participants, and also it's helping the plan, and I think that's a good exchange. Do I have time to answer? Okay. As far as whether or not employees look at retirement when they are making decisions about employment, yes, the retirement program is part of one of the things that employers use to attract the best out there as far as the employees, and the employees do look at pension benefits when they are comparing employers as to where to work.
Thank you. My time has expired. I'm going to yield to the ranking member, Mr. Shavit, recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Hall, I'll begin with you if I can. As briefly mentioned, I did early on, President Trump signed an executive order last August that aims to expand retirement benefit options to small businesses. And in your written testimony, you mentioned it several times, and since you weren't giving your written testimony, I don't think you went into it here. But if you could share with us why you believe that expansion, the multiple employer plans, could actually make a difference if it were implemented.
Thank you for the question. The main reason I believe that it could certainly make a difference is because of the cost of entry into the field of play. I think many small businesses, and I think T. Rowe Price actually in their survey mentioned that less than half of self-employed people currently are saving for retirement. And if a self-employed person has 4 employees, they're not saving for retirement. They're probably not offering a plan for their employees either. And mostly the reason they're not is because it's expensive to have a plan. It's complicated to have a plan. They have to worry about testing. They have to worry about compensation limits, safe harbors, and it just gets expensive. Mm-hmm. And I think the multiple employer plan has an opportunity to reduce that cost. I'm certainly not creative enough to figure out the plan, but the thing I believe I would love to see is a plan sponsored by a state, by T. Rowe Price, maybe joint partnerships, some plan. And there's a nice model out there with Association Group Health Plans from the past that a small employer, it's got 5 employees, can just say, I want to be part of this 401k plan and sign up. Costs are reduced. They've got lawyers in place. They've got testers in place. They've got actuaries. They've got CPAs. Their employees can just sign a piece of paper and say, start withholding 4% of my pay, send it to Paychecks. They get reduced tax for it, and they're starting saving for their retirement. And now the small business owner has adopted a plan. They're saving for themselves. They're helping their employees save, which I think is what we're trying to get accomplished here. And if the MEPs can reduce that cost, then by definition, it's already made a tremendous difference.
Okay. Thank you very much. Ms. Turner, Joseph, if I go to you next. What would you say is the number one retirement issue that small businesses come to you with? And what do you tell them when they come to you with that problem?
The number one issue that employers present is the fear of sponsoring a plan and the responsibility that comes with sponsoring a plan. Mm-hmm. Because of the job that I do, I am able to alleviate that fear for them by telling them that most of our clients are small, and we do a lot of hand-holding. So we walk them through what they have to do, what responsibility we are able to take off their shoulders and do it for them. Once we have completed the job, we sit them down and explain to them what is being done. So education and understanding what the process is half the problem. And having someone with them, which I consider myself with them, to walk them through the process and let them realize that I've got their back, so to speak, it makes it a lot easier.
Thank you very much. Mr. Gagon, let me go to you next if I can. As was mentioned here by somebody before, Americans tend oftentimes now, in the past maybe they graduated or whatever, worked for this company and worked with them, or maybe two companies their entire life. Nowadays people tend to move around and work for various companies and entities, and oftentimes they've got a retirement plan there, or they've set up an IRA, and then they have their spouse has an IRA, and then maybe, you know, when Roth IRAs came, they're thinking of the tax consequences. They got all these different things. And what would you recommend, or what are people doing nowadays when they have all these different things to figure out, you know, well, I'm 65 or I'm going to be 70, and if I don't start taking certain stuff by then, there's penalties. You know, what do you recommend people do, and is there anything we can do to simplify this whole process for them?
I think one of the things I would recommend that people do is as they change jobs throughout their careers, they continue to move their retirement with them. When you have 8, 9, 10 different retirement plans, tough to keep track of what you've got and where it is and how much it is.
Can they combine them into one entity at this point?
You can roll them over from one employer to another.
Yeah. Even the IRAs and things which they've set up individually, or not?
I would have to defer to a tax expert to answer that question, but I believe an IRA can be rolled over.
Okay. I see some nodding of heads, both in the audience and here, so I'm going to.
So the key to your second part of your question is knowing how much they have available to them, and then planning, you know, the rest of their lifetime, how much money, how long is that going to last them to start taking out the withdrawals at the appropriate times in their retirement age. But key is knowing how much you've got, and having it in one place goes a long way to getting there.
As Mr. Hall mentioned before, as I get older, these issues I'm raising are becoming less theoretical and more personal. So, anyway, I yield back, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The next person is the chairwoman of the Subcommittee on Rural Development, Agriculture, and Trade and Entrepreneurship, Ms. Fingerhauser.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and thank you to our ranking member and our great guest here today. This is an incredibly important topic, and I know Mr. Chabot talked about how this is personal for him, and I got to tell you, as a young woman who got elected to Congress at 29 and now I'm 30, I have a lot of friends that I grew up with in Iowa where this is very personal to them as well. You know, the idea and the discussion around retirement right now, especially when talking about young folks and student loan debt, is one of, I believe, one of the biggest challenges we're going to have here in the next 20 years. And I'm somebody, again, who's sitting there with, you know, about 20,000 of student loans left. I'm not alone in Iowa. A lot of us were first-generation college graduates, so our parents worked really hard, helped get us to college, but couldn't pay for it. Also, again, sitting there with the debt on top of it. And I've got friends that, graduated from college and then took a job possibly at a nonprofit where they're making about $35,000 a year. Incredible, amazing, fulfilling work. But again, the wages in my state in particular are some of the lowest in the country. Our minimum wage is still $7.25. So you look at Iowa in particular and the young folks that I've been talking to, friends, family, and the idea of, okay, well, now we need you to put more into retirement when they're just trying to figure out how they're going to pay their rent. It's a huge issue. And so thank you for the work that you've done on this. And one of the things that I keep trying to talk to, again, folks in Iowa, but also here about how we deal with some of the challenges that young folks are facing, and also states like Iowa where we're trying to keep folks in my state and also bring them back home, is creating opportunities for young people to then start businesses and create jobs in some of our smaller communities. But again, one of the biggest hurdles is always going to be, how are you going to save for retirement on top of it if you don't have an employer match? So do you have any ideas? I know Ms. Turner and Ms. Gorgon, Mr. Gorgon, I know, obviously student loan debt, this is something you guys have looked into a great deal, and Mr. Hall and Mr. Davidson as well. But what can we be doing to better help our small businesses and our entrepreneurs make sure that they can start their businesses and then at the same time not have to worry about their future right away? Is there something, I know one of the things has been talked about before, possibly a safe harbor for very small businesses to have 401ks to help lower startup costs, or what are your thoughts on that? Ms. Turner? Oh, Turner Joseph, I apologize. I just saw the top part of your name.
Yeah, one of the things that can be done, and I'm happy that you brought up not-for-profit, because that's a group that don't have a lot of money. Mm-hmm. They want to set up something for the employees to be able to do something. And the way the rules are set right now, it is not an easy task. Chairman Neal's bill has in there the auto IRA and the auto 401k plan. Those plans are plans that are set up, if the bill is passed, such that a employer can sponsor a 401k plan. No employer contributions will be needed, and some of the rules will be relaxed so that employees can make elective deferrals under the plan without the employer have to go through all of the testing that other employers have to go through. I think something like that is excellent, especially for not-for-profit who will not be able to make employer contributions. It gives the employees a chance to save, and it's also excellent for businesses who are a little timid about getting into the retirement plan market. This is something like training wheels. We can go slowly and allow the employees to make elective deferrals, and as time passes and the business grows, then the business can make employer contributions.
Got it. Mr. Gorgon or Mr. Hall, Mr. Davidson?
I would just like to add to what Ms. Turner Joseph said about the auto enroll. Mm-hmm. There's a little bit of Big Brother connotation with those words, but as Citizen, we were at about 56% participation across our workforce last year. We implemented a new 401k plan at the beginning of this year. We implemented an auto enroll, giving people the opportunity to opt out if they wanted to, and our participation went from 56 to 90%. And we had about 60% of our workforce, maybe 40% of our workforce makes less than $35,000. And those folks were not participating in the plan. So us taking the action to enroll them in the plan and giving them we have a 3% match, giving them the free money that is found with an employer match, those people stayed in the plan and have not opted out.
Thank you, and I believe I ran out of time, so I yield back and very grateful. Oh,
I was just going to add,
thank you.
It still comes back to cost. I think the thing we can help most with the smaller businesses, if any of these ideas we come up with, whether it is reducing safe harbors, what the multiple employer plans would look like from a cost standpoint, that's where we can make a difference for them. Because I think the right advice that someone at my age would give to someone at your age is don't concentrate so much on how much you have to do this year or doing the max this year. Don't worry so much about how much. Just do something. Get this started. Let it be part of your habit for you as the business owner and for your employees. Just get started. Lowest cost level, get started, then grow with it.
If we're going over, I do have a couple points.
Thank you. I had to thank the lady. Thank you for that.
Thank you. So I think there's 3 points, two around the individual participants, and that is, as we discussed earlier, to help them, to allow the student loan payments to be matched in the 401k. That helps everybody. But there's another set of the population. As we know, I think the statistic is 40% of Americans don't have $400 in savings. So since 401k has been our most successful savings scheme ever in our history, why don't we allow employees to have more access to that? So why don't we have a rule that they could take out 10% or 25% to make for immediate needs? And then the third part of the question is to the employers, how to make it easier for them. I second what Mr. Hall said. It's about relieving them from the responsibility and offering a plan, just to make it easier for them to open it up so that all the employees can save. And I think those 3 things could make a dramatic difference.
Thank you all. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
The gentleman from the great state of Minnesota, Mr. Hagedorn.
The great state of Minnesota. You're correct. Thank you, sir. Appreciate the chairman's indulgence, ranking member, staff, everyone. Thanks to the witnesses. I think our ranking Republican member is onto something, and the concept of portable benefits. You know, why are we always putting the onus on small business and others to create some, corporate type structure of benefits when we have a lot of people mobile in the workforce moving from job to job, not always staying with one company at a time? Obviously, corporations that have a lot of money to put things together, big businesses, can offer incentives that sometimes smaller businesses can't. Hard to compete with that. But perhaps if we had more the concept of portable benefits, where you take your retirement program with you into your job, easily invested by the small business wherever they land, health benefits, everything. I think that's what we need to move to or look to, especially for folks in the smaller business community. Does anyone have any thoughts to that? Are there regulatory impediments to that, tax changes that need to be made? I'll open it up to Mr. Hall, and then we'll go down this way.
Well, I think it is a unique time for employment. The thing that I get worried about when I think about changing generations, as people have moved around more, the people that we're struggling with now, those that say 18% of the retirees in the next 15 years are going to have more income than debt, a lot of those people were the ones that had a job for 30 years or 40 years. And if those people didn't meet the need then, we need to make sure we're encouraging young people now, even if they are moving from job to job, and the ability to maintain a Roth IRA or a traditional IRA, roll those into another plan. All those things are available today. So I don't see the impediment to those. What I still want the conversation to be about is getting more people aware of their future and recognizing that they need to start doing something now. And then the support for small business is giving some of them the options without burdening all the cost, as your point is, to not burden small business with the cost for everyone else, but allow them to put a plan in place with minimal cost.
Anyone else?
I think one of the challenges that we would face is employees moving from a large organization that has really great benefits to a smaller organization to help start up a small business. The idea of those benefits being portable would create some sort of challenge for the small business to continue to honor a commitment from a benefit that the individual had, unless I'm misunderstanding you.
Yeah, I'm talking about people having more individual benefits. Could be a company or some sort of plan put together for individuals to basically latch onto, and then they take that from job to job. And big corporate, I'm not talking about taking benefits from some company and moving them over to another.
The one thing I would do there is significantly increase the income deferrals of IRAs.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Make an IRA equivalent to a 401k, The employee can do it on their own. There's no employer match, but that's okay if you're going to do a 401k with a safe harbor of no match. There's no harm, no foul. It's the same plan, but at least gives the individual the opportunity to save at the same levels of a 401k.
I agree with your point. I think there's one clarification I make. What we see is people with large balances, they make sure it gets rolled over. They don't forget their $100,000. The ones that have a smaller balance, those are the ones that need help. And unfortunately, our financial system today, there's not a lot of people chasing around to try to get a $10,000 or $15,000 contribution, and that's right when the balance is beginning to grow and it can begin to compounding. So I think the easier we can make it for those small balances to move would make a big difference.
Right, right. The pieces that are needed to have portability is already in place. Unfortunately, plan participants have to be proactive when they leave an employer to make sure that they take their account balances with them. Now, under the law, you cannot just roll any IRA amount into a qualified plan. The easiest IRA amount to roll into a qualified plan is if you use a conduit IRA, which is an IRA that's set up specifically to take in pension assets. Some plans take ordinary IRAs, but most plans don't. So if you want the opportunity to move that from one plan to the other, then the plan participants have to be educated that when we quit, we move the monies to a conduit IRA. In a conduit IRA, you can, commingle 10 different plan assets in there. It doesn't matter. And then you can move that back into a qualified plan if you want to have your money travel with you. So it's there. Plan participants just has to be educated as to how to use it, and unfortunately, sometimes that's lacking.
Very good. I see my time's up. I'd agree with you, though. Some of these amounts that you can maybe deposit into accounts each year, some of the tax implications, and I don't use this word lightly, need to be liberalized as far as I'm concerned.
Right in the Midwest, the great state of Kansas, Ms. Davis.
Thank you, Chairman Evans. And thank you to everyone who came here to testify today. I appreciate it. So the first thing I want to start off, actually, I really appreciated the last conversation that we were just having. I would love to hear a little bit more. Mr. Hall, you had actually mentioned earlier educating folks, and then we ended with Ms. Turner-Joseph just talking about that a few minutes ago. Can you talk a little bit about what educating, when you think about it, what it looks like? And I'm going to, somehow the two of you have things that are both very pertinent to what I'm curious about here. In the graphs that you provided, Ms. Turner-Joseph, on participation and in 401k plans, it looks like if you aggregated the under 50,000 and then the under 100,000 plan participants, it looks like there's a pretty decent amount of participation. It's 34% and 32% respectively, and then it drops off significantly as folks' annual income increases. So I'm curious, when we think about what educating folks looks like, Mr. Hall, is it just plan participation? Is it some of what got brought up last time about making sure that people continue to take their plans with them as we see more of a more robust kind of mobile economy?
Well, I think there's two pieces of education in this conversation. The one that I believe is important is a broader education concept, mainly for people who are not involved in retirement savings now. Most of the surveys we've talked about, you look at from either side of the discussion, most of them point to about half of the people aren't saving for retirement today. And then whether they're saving the right amount, whether they're going to have the right amount, those are all complicated discussions. But when I think of education, I think of social media, I think of this hearing, I think of news outlets, the Small Business Administration, just a matter of focus on retirement as a concept, so that the normal small business owner in Iowa or Kansas is aware that they're going to be 65 one day. And I think, I know it was when I was 30, but when you're 30, you don't think you're ever going to be 65. And then you're 65 before you realize it. And I think just the awareness of the plan, the structure, what's going to happen, how things change, so that you then start looking at options. Then I think, and I'll defer, but there's also a second piece of education, and that is for people that are involved in a plan. Recognizing that this is available to you, you need to maximize your contribution because the company is going to match it for you. And then when you do leave, it's portable. You can roll it over. So there's education for those that are involved already. And then the bigger role of we need everyone involved in putting money away for their own future.
And then the follow-up I have to that is, what about educating? So I'm thinking about both the employees of small businesses and also the small business owners themselves. You mentioned small business development centers, I think, when you were doing your testimony. How are you looking at getting the small businesses educated as not just saving for retirement for themselves, but also using that to attract top talent? Because we know that small businesses are some of the folks who are worried about things like pay and how they're going to attract top talent to their companies.
Well, I think it's a big problem because I think when again you go through the numbers, about 1 in 3 of tax returns are going to have a small business attached to them. That still leaves 2/3 of the people that work for someone else. But of that 2/3, half of those people work for a small business. So, it's the same people, right? But all those work for small business. And I believe with technology, as the world is getting smaller, as people are working from home, I think we're going to find that the average size, employee number, the average size of a business is going to fall. I think we're going to have companies that can do global operations, global fulfillment, global servicing with 5 people, none of them who live in the same state. Mm. And those are the types of companies that have difficulty in finding a plan because now they've got just a few number of people. The highly compensated testing is difficult because they just have a few. Safe harbor is difficult, so now it becomes more expensive. So now how do we do that plan and maintain low cost?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Will now recognize myself for 5 minutes. My first action as chair of this hearing. So I wanted to ask Mr. Davidson, I think you touched upon a little bit talking about retirement enhancement saving provision and startup credit, which was designed to help small employers to set up retirement plans for their workers, currently capped at $500. And I wanted to ask, how much does $500 pay for, and how common is it for an employer to dismiss it, thinking that it's just not worth it to the to their business or to their employee?
That's a great question. Thank you. And I would hate to ever say that $500 is meaningless, but you're right. I think it's discounted when they're trying to decide whether to start up a plan or not, just because the cost and the long-term commitment you're making goes way beyond the $500. So while I certainly encourage any types of tax credits to help employers start a new plan, I favor, but I think it has to be met with lowering the obligations that they have ongoing to make it really viable for the small employer.
Understood. Thank you. Just out of curiosity, what level of tax credit would it take for them to think? I mean, what would you have to raise that cap to for someone to instinctually think, well, that sounds like a good deal?
From what we do, our lowest price is $85 a month. And it can go up to, depending on what your functions and features, $150 a month. So does that put in perspective what the $500 for you? Yeah. So I think if you could raise that, it would probably get more people's attention.
Thank you. For anyone on the panel, and if there's time, each one of you could take it, or you can just pick and choose amongst yourselves. Simple 401k, SEPs, and other types of plans have strict, often complex rules depending on certain factors like the employee count or contribution limit. For example, simple 401k is only available to small companies with less than 100 employees. So I wanted to give you all an opportunity to talk about whether or not there are any changes that could be made to these types of plans to modernize and update them for workforces today.
I guess I'll start. There's a couple points I'd like to make. One, there are different types of retirement plans, SEPs, so forth. But I think what we talked about recruiting earlier, the 401k has a brand, for lack of a better word. And while people may not understand the intricacies of it, everybody knows it's a good thing and they should have it. So when you're doing your recruiting and you have your posting out on Indeed and you say you have a SEP or something, it marks you as that second-level firm. I don't think it helps you in that. So I think, rightly or wrongly, I think some of those, the different plans aren't viewed as favorably. And, you know, to me, the ideal plan would be keep it as the 401k, but alleviate the fact that the employer has so much responsibility and a cost. Make it easier so the employer wants to offer it to his employee. Make it easier for him to offer it to his employee so everybody gets a chance to save. And that, to me, would be the ideal situation.
I agree with Mr. Davidson that 401k is a brand, and if you're looking to expand coverage, you probably want to use that brand. Folks know about it, and so keep it there. What I'd love to see is some changes that would allow small businesses to sponsor a 401k plan without some of the burdens that comes with the legislation in terms of keeping the plan in compliance. If we could, for example, I keep going back to it because it is one of the things that in my work I've met employers who would love to do a 401k, they just can't afford to do employer contributions. So if something would be there, and it's, you know, it's in bills, we just need to get it passed, where an employer can sponsor deferral only 401k as a starter, I think that would be very helpful.
Yeah, I totally agree. Again, going last, you have to just to say I agree. But I think there's plenty of options out there. I think we talk occasionally about increasing limits. I think increasing the IRA limit, I would be in favor of that also. But I don't think increasing the limits is where the real problem is. It's getting people in. Doing the lowest contributions is where we need to start.
All right, thank you very much. I'll yield back 5 seconds. And I'll go ahead and recognize gentleman from New Jersey, Congressman Kim, Chairman of the Subcommittee on Economic Growth, Tax, and Capital Access.
Great. Thank you so much for coming out. This has been incredibly helpful for me to understand. You know, my district in New Jersey, Burlington County and Ocean County, a lot of retirement communities there, especially along the Jersey Shore. This comes up a lot, and it's also very much a small business district. You know, a lot of small businesses from the Delaware River to the Jersey Shore. So, a lot of what you're talking about really resonates with me, and it's been helpful. I mean, I think when I think through it, you know, Mr. Hall, I thought, you know, your comments there just, you know, really simplified, just trying to build that habit of getting people to, you know, really just start up, even if it's at a lower amount, but just build that habit. And, you know, I think what you said about, you know, awareness, education, and simplify was really helpful on that front. And Mr. Davidson, you know, I think I'd like to just build off of some of the points you just made, both you and Ms. Turner-Joseph. I'd love to hear a little bit more about some of those burdens about the 401k. You know, Ms. Turner-Joseph, you were talking about the employer contributions, but, you know, if you can just kind of enlighten me with just some of the more of the other issues that are out there if they were to try to set up.
Some of the issues that small businesses have in terms of setting up the plan, apart from the contribution, is the actual cost of maintaining the plan. There are various testings that have to be done with a plan. There are rules that the plan has to meet in terms of filing. And, to do most of that, they're not experts themselves, the employers. And so they need help from the outside, which is why they hire people like myself to assist in maintaining the plan and doing all of the record-keeping work that the plan has to go through. So that cost is something that, an employer who is just starting out may want to shy away from.
No, that's helpful. Mr. Davidson?
Yeah, I think of it in two ways. For the small employer, there's kind of two choices today. You can either go the safe harbor, which is basically 3% of your payroll, which can be a big cost just so your employees can save. The other side, you go without making a mandatory contribution, but you're subject to annual compliance testing. And when you're a small employer, one employee leaving can throw you out of compliance, and all of a sudden you can be hit with a big bill, which is unbudgeted, unexpected, and many small businesses don't want to take that risk. They're planning on that money for a new truck or a new oven or hiring a new employee, and all of a sudden they get a surprise bill from us. It's not a welcome happenstance. So if we can take that requirement away, and I would say the other part is the fiduciary responsibility. If we allow them to outsource the fiduciary responsibility, my experience is most employers want their employees to save. They want their employees to do well. They just, when they weigh the cost, it's the cost of the new truck or sending their daughter to college, and sometimes retirement plans fall second. So if we can alleviate that, I think we can see the vast majority of American workers saving.
That's helpful. Mr. Davidson, I want to return to something you said earlier in response to a question. You had cited this statistic that I often use, which is that 40% of Americans can't handle a $400 emergency.
Right.
And something that you said in response to that was about allowing employee access to the 401k without penalty. Can you give me a little bit more detail on how that would help alleviate some of the concerns with people who are living with that fragility in life?
So in my perfect world, I'd like to see easier for the employer to offer a plan, but he offers it or she offers it with automatic enrollment. In other words, everybody first day, we sign them up for 3% contribution in. Now, they have an option. We give them 60 days or 90 days or however long that they can get out of it, but you try to start them immediately on that, and you get them in the habit of doing the savings. And then the American public has different needs. I think a lot of them won't touch it till retirement, and that's what you want. Some may need it to pay their college loans back, or those who really can't get to work tomorrow because the car needs new tires. And if we can get all those people saving, and we could have some kind of a rule that you could take 25% out of your plan every 3 years or something, I think that those that are at the lowest incomes would be more likely to let that 3% grow, knowing it could help them. And it would also alleviate them having to go find the money to get those new tires to get the car to work tomorrow.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that. Thank you so much for helping enlighten me, and look forward to staying in touch and figure out how we can implement some of these. I'll yield back the balance of my time.
Well, with that, I'd ask if Mr. Kim has an interest in asking an additional round, because it would be that time. If you had more questions, you can go ahead and ask them. No problem.
Well, I guess just my last question, I guess, would be, with where we were just going off of with the 401s, I'd like to get just sort of the thoughts of the other two participants, Mr. Gagon and Mr. Hall, if they share some of those same recommendations, if there's any concerns or thoughts. I mean, I'm intrigued by what Mr. Davidson said about, allowing employees to access the 401k, but obviously, I will also have some concerns about people going into that too much. So I know there's got to be sort of a balance there, but I'm intrigued by just sort of the assessments of the other two.
Well, I do agree with it. I think again, it is an interesting time. I would say before I knew that there are 3 states right now that are already doing it, I would say you can't make people save. They need to want to save. They need to know the need to save. Now, I'm very interested to see how those states work, because that might be something to consider. Because, if my mom were standing here, she would tell me she knows what's good for me and would tell me what to do, and I would probably do what she said. But at some point, it still comes back to education. I think people need to be aware. I think it's anybody's a Harry Potter fan. I think Albus Dumbledore said it's unreasonable to expect a young man to know what it's like to be an old man, but it's unforgivable for an old man to forget what it's like to be a young man. And I think when you're young, I remember not thinking I needed to worry about that topic. So I agree with the concern on over-saving. I certainly don't want them to put away 3% of their newly earned savings and then not be able to buy bread. That's not fun. But at some level, there should be, or I would encourage involvement via automatic enrollment at some level to start building that habit, because I think that's critical.
No, I appreciate that. Mr. Gagoni, do you have any thoughts here, any other wisdom from children's books?
I think one of the challenges with having people enroll in a 401k is in their mind they're putting money away and I can never touch it. It's like I don't have it. And in the case of an emergency, well, I need access to those funds. There are features of 401ks that allow people to take loans against the 401k and pay themselves interest rather than paying somebody else interest. I think the more fundamental problem, though, is not the fear of not being able to have the funds available, because if that were the only issue, more than 40% of the people would have $400 in savings. And they'd have other mechanisms by which they have saved that money that made it available to them. I think that when we look across the board, the cost of student loans, the cost of health care, the cost of housing, the costs of a lot of things that we need in our day-to-day lives are a lot more expensive today than they were yesterday. And you can only, my dad has always said you can only spend $1 one way, and you got to be careful how you spend it. So given a choice between health insurance or housing or student loans or retirement, and I'm 30 years old, guess which one loses?
No, that's right. And look, this is something that is really at the core of what I'm trying to do here in Congress. I just spoke at a press conference yesterday talking about how, when asked by a journalist how I will measure my success here in Congress, I told them it was about the 40% of Americans that can't handle a $400 emergency, and trying to drop the number of Americans that are constantly at that precipice of fragility. Trying to figure out how we can help them save, how we can help them understand that they don't have to make these important trade-offs between student debt, health care, retirement, and other aspects. So, look, we're not going to be able to solve these all right here, right now in this hearing, but I hope to be able to continue to draw upon your expertise, your experience, as we try to think of what tools we can that will be able to comprehensively address that issue. So thank you so much again for your time. I'll yield back my time.
Thank you very much. Well, I would like to thank all the witnesses for taking time out of your schedules to join us here today to talk about an important issue. Retirement security is one of the most important issues facing Americans today. Retirement benefits not only provide future financial security for business owners and employees, but also allow entrepreneurs the ability to attract and retain talented individuals as their businesses grow. It's clear from this hearing that improvements to the retirement system must be made to meet the needs of business owners, their employees, and entrepreneurs. I know by having scheduled and called for this hearing, the chairwoman thinks this is a real priority, and she and the ranking member look forward to working with members on both sides of the aisle in this committee to address this important issue. And with that, I would ask unanimous consent that members have 5 legislative days to submit statements and supporting materials for the record. Without objection, so ordered. If there's no further business to come before the committee, we're adjourned. Thank you.